If your team isn't getting things done, if they're not hitting goals, if they're not driving revenue, if they're not prospecting, it's not on them. If you're a good leader, you take responsibility and you have to get better. And we all want to, but it's not easy. Let's talk about it with Pat McManamon next on Purpose Under Pressure. Welcome back. My name's Bryan, and this is Purpose Under Pressure. It's a podcast about developing sales and leadership success on purpose and under pressure. It's brought to you by the professional sales and leadership training team at Sandler by the Ruby Group. You'll find them in Akron and Columbus, Ohio. They're in Jacksonville, Florida. They're in Capital Region, New York. They do their work across the country for so many different teams, so many different organizations. All of those organizations, all of those teams are different. They're all trying to do different things, but they're all on purpose, and they're all trying to do it the right way. And when you reach out to anyone from Sandler by the Ruby Group, they're going to ask you a lot of questions. What are you trying to accomplish? What are the hurdles that are getting in your way? What's keeping you from accomplishing your goals or doing the things you need to do? And then they're going to figure out a plan to help you get there on purpose, no matter what happens. You can reach out to them at therubygroup.sandler.com. The Ruby Group, master the pressure, lead with purpose, deliver results. So let's get cooking. There may not be a role more defined with purpose and with pressure than leadership. I think if you're a leader, I think if you're tasked with getting your team to the right place, the right way, under incredible pressure to go sideways, anything can go wrong, except you still have to make your goal. You still have to take your team where you're supposed to take them. And I think what makes it so hard is that you need your people to come with you. And I want to talk about trust. I want to talk about leadership. And I want to do that with Sandler by the Ruby Group senior partner and trainer, Pat McManamon. Pat, welcome to Purpose Under Pressure.
Thank you, Bryan. It's good to be here.
Glad you're here. It says, right here on my business cards on my desk, it says I'm a manager, I'm a director, I'm an owner, right? So you have to follow me. I think sometimes that's what leaders think. And I have a feeling you're going to tell me differently. Isn't that all it takes to be a good leader?
Yeah, that would be ideal, right? If it if it just came on the business card. But the reality of it is we know that from a leadership perspective, we talk about in our leadership program about the importance of wearing 4 different hats. And the one that you're talking about specifically that seems like it is given to people is just the supervisory one. You get to dictate and tell the terms of what you want your people to be. But you also want to be a coach, you want to be a mentor, and you also need to be a trainer. And so those 4 are what make up, in our experience, to be a good sales leader. It's easy to gravitate to that supervisory capacity because that's just a do so because I said so. But that's not the way to truly get the most out of our people in developing them and getting them to be the reach the potential that they have.
And I have to assume that most people fall into that supervisory role because that's what they know. Maybe that's what they grew up with. Maybe that's what they've seen in different, even leaders and owners. They're like, I need someone to be a manager. You do it, right? You go do my thing. Is that kind of what happens? It's just anticipated. We don't realize those other 3 hats need to be worn.
Yeah, I think a lot of, we're emulating what we saw from years past. Back in the day, there was a Theory X management style that was embraced, and that's what a lot of people grew up under. And it's now become extremely evident that that's not the most effective way to develop people. And that's not the best way to get the most out of them, so where they feel like they're growing, contributing, and have a future with our organization.
So it's very difficult to be a leader. We're not all born into it. We've got to get better at it. And the folks around us have to invest in us to make us give us the tools to get better. But tell me a little bit about the team. Where do things go wrong when the team doesn't follow? I'm thinking of leaders in the past that I haven't trusted. I didn't think they were going in the right direction. I didn't think that they had the right ideas for whatever reason. They might have, but for whatever reason, I just wasn't on board. I got to think that's a real problem and limits the effectiveness of a leader.
Yeah, a lot of it starts with, and this might hurt some people, but a lot of it starts with the hiring. We're hearing a lot more from owners and sales leaders about the difficulties of hiring and hiring the right people and the costs associated with hiring the wrong people. And not only does it have a negative impact on whether or not that individual is successful, but it also permeates the whole team from a standpoint of If one individual doesn't fit in from a cultural perspective, they either feel like they are above them or that they are dragging the team down. It's not good for the overall performance of the team. Plus, it's something that the manager who has tied their ego to this new hire, to that individual, and they've got to then eventually come to grips with the fact that they made a mistake and admit that mistake and make a change. And the cost associated with that is roughly 2 to 3 times the annual expected compensation of a salesperson. So it's a pretty weighty decision that managers and owners are often making, and you'd be surprised how many times they do it somewhat on a whim. They go through the obligatory interview type things, but they're already predetermined that they're going to go with this person because they didn't do a good job of laying the foundation as to what the ideal candidate looks like, or they're just bored with the process and they say, well, this one's got a pulse. Let's give it a shot.
Do you think in that situation when you're trying to build a team, is it better to hire someone with a pulse? I think this can work. When you really need somebody, like the region is empty or whatever it might be, you've got to you need a pulse in the seat. But in the back of your mind, it's not the right pulse. You're doing some damage, aren't you? But what choice do you have?
That's a good question. I think you are better off leaving that position open because of the long-term impact on not only that territory or that production you're expecting from that individual not going to be there, but it does have a negative effect. We'll call it the water cooler effect. The rest of the team is seeing that they just were burdened with somebody that is not up to their caliber. So one of two things happen. They either slide back gradually over time to that level of underperformance, or they look for another job.
Yeah. And I think, and I've seen this happen, I think the team will understand. I think the team will trust the leader better when the leader makes the right decisions based on the purpose, based on the right call, not just to get a pulse in the seat, not just to go after a different goal or a target or whatever. I think they build trust and even rapport with their team when the team can see they're really in it. Like they're in it with them. They're in the trenches. They're going to make the hard decisions on their behalf. A team that trusts the leader, no matter how talented the leader is, makes the leader better. Don't you think? Absolutely.
Yeah, trust is a big thing. And we talk about building a trust bank as a leader. And that translates into, over the course of time, your individual salespeople need to accept and appreciate that you're gonna have their back. You're gonna be there to help them reach their level of goals and success. With over the course of time, once you have built up enough of that trust, then that gives you the right to have that tough conversation about saying, hey, can we talk about that last conversation or that last sales call or that last sales effort and really peel back where the problem started and see if we can identify ways to not do that again.
Yeah. And is trust developed with that team one-to-one, or is it developed as a team? Do we go out on a big training session and all get together and rah-rah? And I mean, there's a benefit in that. Or is it one-to-one, and I'm going to develop trust with you perhaps differently than I'm going to develop trust with you?
Yeah, I think it's both in the sense that, everyone, just like children watch their parents, salespeople will watch their leaders, and they will observe things that we do more so than what we say. And in the course of that, they will start to determine whether or not we are walking the walk that we are talking to them about. Mm-hmm. So that's one component. And then the other is each individual, within our leadership program, we call it an individual needs analysis, where each individual has different opportunities to grow by identifying where their weaknesses are, or maybe their inability to address a certain aspect that's critical to the sales process. And that's where the one-on-one piece comes, where the manager or leader will then say, listen, I've noticed a trend with you is that you do this well, you do this well, you do that well. And that's the trust component that's important in the conversation. but I want to make sure that you're open to a conversation about this gap that I've also noticed.
And that's
And then,
difficult.
and then providing them the resources to improve upon those gaps.
Yeah. And if there's any kind of level of trust at all, the I'll call it the follower, the team will absorb that and say, yeah, if that's what you think, that's what I want to do. But if there's no trust and no rapport, I'm going to put my hand up and say, no, I know what I'm doing. Just let me do my job. So it's so important. If the leadership isn't right, things are going to go sideways. That boat's not going to get where it needs to go. Help someone who's listening or watching understand that they might have a leadership issue. What might be a red flag or two that, hey, if this is happening, you might want to get a little bit of help or some advice on figuring out the next step?
Yeah, I think any individual, any leader that's out there wondering whether or not they've got the right team in place to get their organization to the next level, that's certainly a conversation that we could be a resource for. Mm-hmm. Any that are frustrated with what we'll call bloated pipelines, where salespeople keep coming in and they say, I got one, and they've got all these potentials that continue to ride in that potential pipeline, much longer than what the logical sales cycle is. That's an indication that they're not qualifying the opportunity. And then the one that jumps out the most is the one where sales organizations sometimes get complacent and they just are resting on the laurels of their existing book of business and they're not prospecting enough. So we can help get the sales organization to understand the importance of prospecting, the value of prospecting, and keeping a consistent, healthy pipeline. So our role in that capacity is we comfort the afflicted and we afflict the comfortable.
I've never heard that before, and I like that. We comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. I think I've been comfortable at times. I know I've been comfortable at times.
We all
and
are.
It takes a leader that we all have, right?
Yeah.
Leadership is hard, folks. It's really difficult. And if you have any issues with leadership, and I think we probably all do, I bet you we're all more comfortable than not. I would suggest that you reach out to Sandler by the Ruby Group or anyone that can help you to realize that there's an issue. You've got people that are trying to hit goals. You've got you that's trying to hit goals. Your owner's trying to hit goals. Let's talk about you. Let's talk about leadership. And so Pat McManamon, senior partner and trainer at Sandler by the Ruby Group. Pat, thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate you having me.
I'm glad you were here. Folks, thanks for being here too. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We do this every week. And if you like the show, please subscribe so that you won't miss another one. I think that's the best way to do it. Also, if you don't mind, go ahead and tell a friend. They can be on Purpose too. You'll find all past episodes of Purpose Under Pressure at bryanmediastrategies.com/podcast and wherever you stream your favorite shows. This show is brought to you by the Ruby Group. Master the pressure, lead with purpose, deliver results. And until next time, no matter how high the pressure, stay on purpose.